Most people think money is about numbers, about spreadsheets, hustle, blood, sweat, and late nights. But the real war isn't outside. It's not on your bank statement. It's inside your head. Because money is not about numbers. It's about perception, identity, programming. Every thought you have about money, every anxiety, every doubt, every ceiling, you didn't create it. It was given to you, installed like a virus, by your father's silence, by your mother's fear, by a culture that tells you ambition is arrogance, that wanting more is selfish, that dreaming of freedom is childish. They didn't mean to curse you, but they did. They passed down a script written by trauma, and you followed it, thinking it was truth. So now, you work hard and still feel poor. You dream big, but sabotage the execution. You want freedom, but panic when it gets close. This isn't laziness. This is programming. And Carl Jung warned us. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. That's not just a quote. It's a diagnosis. That voice in your head that whispers, "You don't deserve this." That emotion that clenches when someone mentions investing. That guilt when you imagine wealth. That's not your soul speaking. That's your ghost, your psychological inheritance, your ancestral wounds masquerading as logic. You were trained to feel safer in struggle than in success. Because struggle is familiar. Struggle is humble. Struggle is noble. At least that's what they told you. But poverty isn't a virtue, and wealth isn't a sin. Wealth is a mirror. It reflects your beliefs louder than your work ethic. So here's the real question. Not how do I make more money, but who must I become to receive wealth without collapsing? Who must I become to hold power without shame? Because this isn't a motivational video. This is a funeral for the version of you that thought being broke was spiritual, that thought overthinking was a sign of intelligence, that confused self-doubt with humility. That version needs to die. Because intelligence without courage is paralysis dressed up in poetry. And your mind? It's starving. Not for another hack, not for another guru, but for a silent revolution. One where you rewire your internal GPS, not to survive, but to conquer. You don't need more hustle. You need permission from your own unconscious. Permission to rise, to want, to lead. Maybe you've spent your entire life being the good one, the smart one, the careful one, and still you feel behind. Still, you can't breathe. Let me say this clearly. You are not lazy. You are not broken. You are not late. You are trapped in a system that rewards obedience and punishes awareness. In a world where numbness is normal and clarity is radical. And clarity is what we're here to reclaim. Because wealth is not built with desire alone. It's built with clarity, ritual, and silent defiance. Walter Schneider, a pioneer in cognitive training, once told his student, "You must know your goal like a surgeon knows a tumor, with precision, with courage." So stop saying vague things like, "I want more money." That's not a goal, that's a wish. Say this instead, "I am so happy and grateful now that I earn $10,000 a month." Why $10,000? Because it's enough to break the matrix, to breathe, to lead, to build, not out of greed, but out of design. Clarity is not a luxury, it's a weapon. Write it. Not for the world, for your unconscious, that hidden kingdom inside you that's been waiting for a king or a queen. And then, make it a ritual. Every morning, every night, whisper the phrase like a code from your future self. Close your eyes. Visualize the deposits, the clean home, the quiet smile of your partner, the warm coffee, the absence of panic. Feel it, as if it's already yours. Because to your brain, it is. Your brain doesn't care what's real. It only cares what's repeated. So feed it what you want it to believe. Because the poor rehearse anxiety, and the wealthy rehearse certainty. One is a prisoner, the other a builder. Your mind is not a mirror, it's a projector. It doesn't reflect reality, it creates it. So if you want to live differently, you must first think differently, speak differently, move differently. This is not manifestation, this is simulation. And when done daily, it triggers your left prefrontal cortex, your inner architect, the one who designs futures instead of replaying traumas. It's ancient, it's primal, and it's yours. So repeat the phrase. Close your eyes. See it. Say it until your body believes it. Because when your body believes, your life follows. You say the phrase. You close your eyes. You visualize. But then the day begins, and life pulls you back into the chaos. The emails, the bills, the whispers of doubt. That's when the old self returns, the cautious one, the overthinker, the polite prisoner. But here's what you must understand. The future is not built in inspiration. It's built in repetition. The rich don't wait to feel ready. They move while scared. They know what Robert Greene calls tactical patience, the art of moving like a shadow, silent, strategic, deliberate. And every day, you must ask yourself one thing. What is one silent action I can take today that brings me closer to my number? Not 10, just one. Because the path to $10,000 a month isn't paved in noise. It's paved in invisible acts of war. One message sent, one project launched, one refusal to shrink. And when you don't act, don't feel guilt. Feel urgency. Because guilt paralyzes, but urgency mobilizes. You're not behind because you're unworthy. You're behind because your mind has been trained to wait for permission, for the perfect time, for someone to notice your value. But no one is coming. Your freedom is your job. You must act now, not because the world is watching, but because your destiny is. Every time you hesitate, the ghost of poverty tightens its grip, and every time you act, you loosen it. So here's your daily ritual. Wake up 30 minutes earlier than usual. No phone, no noise. Just you, a notebook, and silence. Write the phrase, "I am so happy and grateful now that I earned $10,000 a month." Then close your eyes for 2 minutes. See the money arrive. See the life it builds. Not the luxury, but the dignity, the peace, the sovereignty. Feel it. Then whisper, "What's one thing I can do today to bring this closer?" Write the answer. No censorship, no logic, just flow. Maybe it's studying pricing strategy. Maybe it's asking for a raise. Maybe it's learning about digital products. Maybe it's resting so your clarity returns. And then, before noon, do it. Before the world steals your energy. This isn't magic. This is warfare, strategic, spiritual, internal. Because poverty is not just a lack of money. It's a mindset, a posture, a chronic hesitation. It teaches you to survive, to obey, to wait. But you were not born to obey. You were born to design. And design begins in thought, in ritual, in the quiet decisions made while no one is looking. Most people only change when their suffering becomes unbearable. But the wise change when the vision becomes non-negotiable. Which one are you? Will you wait for a breakdown? Or will you build from a whisper? Because once you decide, truly decide, your brain starts searching for patterns, for leverage, for opportunity. And that's when it happens. Your old identity starts to crack. The part of you that used to shrink in rooms begins to stand taller. The part of you that hated money begins to see it as a tool. The part of you that envied success begins to study it. It's not overnight. It's not cinematic. But it's real. And with every silent act, you're rewriting your lineage. You're becoming the one who breaks the chain. Maybe your family has never had wealth, never had clarity, never had sovereignty. But maybe you're the beginning of a new story. Not the loudest, not the most gifted. Just the one who dared, who stopped romanticizing struggle, who stopped blaming the system, who stopped outsourcing their power, who trained like a monk and moved like a mercenary. That's who wins. The rich don't beg. They don't debate. They don't perform. They observe. They build. They protect their minds like it's their kingdom. Because it is. And you? You're not far. You're not lost. You're just early. In the story. In the process. In the silence. But silence is where all empires begin. So write, visualize, act, not for validation, for preparation, because the world won't reward your intention, it will reward your execution. And every day you delay, your future shrinks a little more. But every day you act, your soul breathes again. There's something they never told you about success, that it's not about luck or genius or charm. It's about identity, and identity is not who you say you are. It's who you act like, on repeat. Most people are stuck because their habits belong to an old self, a poor self, a reactive self. You can't just visualize $10,000 a month and then wake up acting like someone who still earns $1,200. That creates tension, cognitive dissonance. You start to doubt the vision. But the problem isn't the vision, it's your identity loop. You wake up with ambition, but live with habits that betray it. You want sovereignty, but still operate from scarcity. This is the war you're in. The war between who you've been and who you're becoming. And in that war, only one can survive. The you that waits, or the you that decides. This is why action matters. Not because it makes you feel productive, but because it breaks the loop. It builds proof to your own unconscious. Every time you show up, on time, with clarity, with boldness, you're teaching your nervous system, we're not who we used to be. And slowly, your body begins to believe. You sit straighter, you speak slower, you feel less apologetic. You start looking people in the eyes, because poverty is also a posture, and wealth is a presence, and presence is not faked. It's built in mornings of solitude, in nights of focus, in thousands of small, silent moments where you choose vision over fear. You don't need to be the smartest, or the loudest, or the most connected. You just need to be the most consistent, the most strategic, the most aligned with your future self, even when no one's watching, especially when no one's watching, because your mind is always watching, and it remembers every decision, every excuse, every avoidance, and it builds your identity accordingly. That's why you must move with intention. You want wealth? Then study it. Understand money like a weapon, like a language. Read what the rich read. Study how systems work. Learn pricing, psychology, leverage. Don't wait to be taught. Teach yourself. because no one's coming to hand you the map. The real map is internal, built through questions like, where am I still playing small? What belief about money do I need to bury today? What would my future self refuse to tolerate? These are not affirmations, they're confrontations, and they are sacred. Because when you ask them daily, something cracks open, and in that crack, the new identity starts to rise, not overnight, not loudly, but like a seed breaking through concrete, quiet, relentless, true. This is what Joseph Campbell meant by the hero's journey, that the real battle is not external, it's the transformation of the self, the death of the old, the awakening of the sovereign. It begins with loss, with confusion, with a question, then it moves into fire, into silence, into strategy, until one day you wake up and feel it. The heaviness is gone, the begging is over. You no longer envy others, you study them, you no longer worship suffering, you outgrow it, and you no longer fear money, you command it. Not because you're better, but because you've become aligned. You've walked through the fire and came out clean. By now, something has shifted in you. A quiet click, a silent knowing, not because everything changed outside, but because something aligned inside. That's how transformation begins. Not with applause, but with refusal. The refusal to keep living as someone else's idea of safety. Because most people aren't living. They're coping, following a script they never wrote. Wake up, obey, work, shrink, sleep, repeat. And they call that life. But it's not life. It's a performance. And you saw through it. You glimpsed the glitch, the quiet lie behind the smile, and now you can't unsee it. You know the system was never designed for your liberation. It rewards followers, not thinkers. It pays obedience, not originality. So you must build your life outside that grid, in silence, in depth, in sovereignty. This is not rebellion for show. This is rebellion for survival. And that rebellion starts with structure. Not chaos, not hype. Structure. Structure is the spine of freedom. And wealth, it's just the fruit of internal order. So start where the world doesn't look. Your rituals, your mornings, your choices, your calendar. Every decision must now pass a filter. Does this serve the empire I'm building, or the identity I'm burying? Because you can't afford to feed both. You can't build a palace and keep planting weeds. So burn the distractions. Mute the noise. Stop explaining yourself to people who have no map. They don't need to get it. Your future isn't a debate, it's a decision. And decisions demand sacrifice. Not pain. Sacrifice. The sacrifice of comfort, of approval, of being understood by the mediocre. Because you weren't born for comfort. You were born for meaning. And meaning has a cost. Ask Nietzsche. He said, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." Your why must be clear now, not just freedom or money. That's shallow, that's easy. What's the real why? To never depend again? To build a home no one can take? To fund your art? To buy your parents a life they never had? Name it. Honor it. Make it sacred. Because when your why becomes sacred, your how becomes unstoppable. Even when you're tired, even when no one believes, especially then. Because this is not a sprint. This is a pilgrimage. A long, quiet, often lonely walk back to your power. But with every step, you become something dangerous. A thinker who executes, a dreamer with discipline, a builder with soul. And soon, you won't recognize yourself. You won't recognize your bank balance, your energy, your friends. Because everything shifts around someone who refuses to shrink. The world bends, not to ego, but to alignment. So if you're serious, it's time to protect your new path like a fortress. Limit conversations that drain. Decline invitations that distract. Replace content that numbs with books that sharpen. Train your attention like a sniper. Your time like a king. Your energy like a warrior. You're not like the rest. Not because you're special, but because you finally chose to awaken. And that choice? It's everything. You've come this far, not by chance, but by resonance. Something in this message echoed through your bones. Maybe it was the clarity. Maybe it was the challenge. Maybe it was the silence. Because this is not a noise, this is signal. For those who are done pretending. Pretending to be okay, pretending to be small, pretending to not care. You care? You've always cared. That's why you suffered in silence. That's why you never fit in. That's why the system exhausted you. Because deep down, you weren't built for obedience. You were built for design. And now you see it. Your life is the mirror of your internal code. Change the code, and the world changes shape. But that takes more than hope. It takes ritual. So here it is, your final ritual. Simple, brutal, sacred. Every morning, before the world invades, do this. Wake up in silence. No phone, no noise, just you and the stillness. Write in your war journal, I am so happy and grateful now that I earn $10,000 a month, not as fantasy, but as declaration. Close your eyes. See it. Feel it. Breathe it. Not as a wish, but as memory from the future. Ask, what's one thing I can do today to bring this closer? Let it come, without filter. Then, do it. Before noon. At night, visualize again. This time with gratitude, as if it already happened. Because repetition plus emotion equals transformation. Do this for 30 days, without fail. It will hurt, it will bore you. It will challenge every lazy program in your mind. But if you complete it, you'll never be the same. Because you will have become the kind of person who keeps promises to themselves. And that is the rarest kind of power. You won't need to convince anyone or prove anything. Your presence will say it all. Your calm, your clarity, your quiet fire. They will ask, what changed? And you will smile, because you'll remember the moment you chose. Not motivation, not hype. You chose structure. You chose silence. You chose sovereignty. And with that choice, everything else became negotiable, even fate. Because every family has someone who breaks the pattern. Every era has someone who sees through the illusion. Maybe that someone is you. Not the loudest, not the most followed, just the one who remembered who they were before the fear was installed. And if this awakened something in you, you already know what to do.